In a village where promises were never written, but spoken into the heart, one woman made a vow. It was not made before witnesses. It was not sealed with ink. It was spoken under the moon, with tears soaking the ground beneath her. She had known shame. She had known whispers. She had known the silence of an empty room. And that night, on a lonely hill above her village, she made a promise. If I am given a son, I will give him back. And heaven answered. A child was born. Laughter returned to her home. Hope filled the compound once more. But destiny does not end. With the cry of a newborn, it begins there. Because before that boy will learn the meaning of his mother's tears, before he will understand the weight of words spoken before his birth, death entered his home. His father fell first. Then the sickness came for his mother. And in the dim light of an oil lamp, as her strength faded, she told him the truth. You were promised. But what is a vow when the one who made it is gone? What is a promise to a boy who never agreed to it? He buried both parents in one season. He rejected the vow, and the land did not remain silent. Crops failed in his hand. Livestock died without reason. Shame followed him. Whispers chased him. Was he caused, or was he running from something greater than himself? This is not just a story of loss. It is a story of resistance, a story of struggle, a story of a young man who fought against a destiny spoken before he could speak. And the moment he finally stopped running, everything changed. This is the story of a vow that outlived a mother, a promise that followed a son, and the choice that determined whether it would remain broken or become what it was born to be. This is the vow that followed. Before the full story unfolds, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. Long before sorrow knew her name, there lived in the quiet village a young woman called Dara. She was not known for loud laughter or restless pride. She was known for gentleness. At dawn, while the sky was still soaked with early light, she swept her family compound with steady hands. She fetched water from the stream without spilling a drop. She greeted elders with lowered eyes and folded respect. The older women would say, "That one will build a peaceful home." When she was of age, a young farmer named Kunle noticed her. He did not approach her in secrecy. He followed tradition. He informed his parents. His family carried kola nut and palm wine to Dara's home. The elders spoke in proverb. Lineage was discussed. Character was examined. Everything was done properly. Their wedding filled the village square with drums. Dara knelt before the elders in deep wine-colored asoke. Kunle prostrated fully before her family. Palm wine was poured. Blessings were spoken. And so she entered her husband's home with dignity. The first year was joyful. They farmed side by side. They cooked together over fire. They shared evening story beneath the moon. But by the second year, whispers began. At naming ceremonies, women would smile and ask, "And when shall we gather for you?" By the third year, the smiles felt heavier. By the fifth year, silence followed her into gathering. In the marketplace, careless words were spoken. In the privacy of her home, she wept quietly. Still, she did not complain. Then one night, when the moon stood high above the hills, Dara walked alone beyond the village. She climbed the sacred hill where few went at night. There, dressed in plain white, she knelt and pressed her forehead to the earth. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "If I am given a son, I will give him back. He will not belong to me alone. The wind rose suddenly around her, but she did not move. Months later, her body began to change. An elderly midwife confirmed what she dared not hold. She was with child. When the baby finally cried in her arms, jubilation filled the compound. Drums echoed through the village. They named him Jide. Laughter returned to her home, but Dara never forgot her words on the hill. Then the sickness came. It began with coughing in distant compound, then fevers, then weakness. Hitler ground house without rest. One evening, Kunle lay sweating on a raffia mat. Dara wiped his forehead through the night. She prayed as she had never prayed before, but at dawn, his breathing slowed and stopped. The drum that once celebrated now announced death. He was buried in red earth. Grief had barely settled when the sickness turned towards her. Dara grew thin. Her strength faded. She could no longer stand without help. One night, under the dim glow of an oil lamp, she called Jide to sit beside her. Her voice was weak but clear. "My son," she said, "before you were born, I made a promise. I vow that if I receive you will be given to sacred service." Jide stared at her in disbelief. "You were promised," she whispered. Weeks later, before another sunrise, she too stopped grieving. In one season, Jide buried both father and mother. He was still young, he was angry, and he refused to honor the vow. "I did not make that promise," he said within himself. "It is not mine to carry." He moved into his uncle's compound. There, he woke before everyone. He fetched water, he carried firewood, he ate last, but something was wrong. The yam he planted dried before harvest. Healthy goats fell lifeless without reason. Rain avoided his farmland. People began to whisper. Then one day, he was accused of theft before the elders. He knelt in the center of the village square. Dust rose around him. Shame burned his chest. He walked into the forest that evening, rage boiling inside him. Dark cloud gathered overhead. "Why?" he shouted into the wind. Lightning struck a nearby tree, splitting it into two. He fell backwards in fear. Days later, broken and confused, he went to the shrine of Ifa. Inside the sacred hut, an elderly priest cast palm nuts upon a woven mat. Silence filled the space. The priest studied the patterns. Then he spoke calmly. "You are not caused. You are delayed. A promise stands before you. It waits." Jide said nothing, but he listened. He began the cleansing ritual at the river. For 7 mornings before sunrise, he bathed in flowing water. The anger in him slowly softened. On the final morning, he climbed the same sacred hill his mother once climbed. He carried kola nuts and palm wine. He knelt. The wind this time was gentle. "I accept," he said quietly. From that day, his life began to change. He trained under the priest. He swept the shrine. He learned the patterns of divination. He served elderly without pride. Years passed. The boy who once knelt in shame now sat among respected men. The uncle who once dismissed him lowered his eyes in pity. Children listened when he spoke. One evening, as the sun painted the sky gold, Jide stood once more upon the sacred hill, the same hill where a lonely woman had once wept. He looked toward the village below. The wind moved softly around him. He knelt again, not in anger, not in confusion, but in gratitude. For he had learned what his mother knew long before him. Some promises are not chased, they are callings. And when a man stops running from what was spoken over him, he does not lose himself. He becomes who he was meant to be.